the women came into the inaugural season this year, I don't think I've ever been more excited about anything in my whole life. It's giving girls a go, and it made me start football myself.
My name is Jolie, and I love AFL football. I play for the Pakenham Football Club, and I play in the forward line.
The rooms were energetic, they're ready. It wasn't quiet, but it wasn't loud, like they're focused.
Kind of quiet and kind of loud. I think everyone was just like getting ready, but it was really exciting for me.
That was amazing, just running out with the allies just then. They're going to really give it a crack today against the Vics.
I got to run out with Jess Delpos through the banner, and I saw my favourite player, and it was so fun.
Yes, thanks for staying with us on the Sports Show. Poppy, time to get to the big weekend that's coming.
Oh, Bevo!
In comes Bevan Jones.
Bevo!
Only 2 games this weekend, of course. Bevo, how are you?
Smithy, still sad from last Saturday night's game, mate. But yeah, we'll
Sorry,
move
what
on.
happened last Saturday night?
Well, my beloved Power lost by 2 points in extra time. So
Right.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about that game, mate, or just move on?
We can talk about it if you guys like.
No,
it.
I'd really like to spend a lot of time on it.
Sorry, just before we spend time. And your team on the weekend, Richmond, how did they go?
We're just taking it 1 week at a time.
we spend any time on that?
Yeah, we will.
51 points.
Hey, that game was one that got away from them, Smithy. You know
Yeah.
what? In your career, you look back at moments, and you know this. You look back at moments and go, I wonder what if. Because I can tell you right now, they would have been a chance to beat GWS.
Well, Mumford's out, so there's no question.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They would have been a chance. Now, from there, they go through to a prelim final. And who knows from there? You know what I mean, really? That's what annoys me. And you've been in enough big games to understand this. Mate,
I'm telling you
it
now,
frustrates me.
I will tell you this. So after the game,
Yes.
the players are hurting.
Yes.
And they're hurting bad. They're going to be hurting for another 30 or 40 years. I guarantee if you say to the blokes, what was the worst game of your career, they'll all go,
That would be that
the
one.
extra time game when we shouldn't have got to extra time and then we shouldn't have lost in extra time either.
That's right.
And they will be able to tell you exactly why that shouldn't have happened.
Yeah, when
so
you keep-
talk to players now that have been in losses that
Yes.
have really hurt them, they can
That one.
recite the whole game more, funny enough, than they can recite a premiership win. The one that gets away tortures you much more than the one you win.
Well, and I guess that's my point, Bevo. You know, and it really annoys me for the poor boys. I'm not a Power fan, but I'd rather they would have won than not.
Yeah.
But what I think what's most frustrating is, one, they shouldn't have lost, and two, is the way they lost. There was some moments that required composure and experience.
Yeah.
And normally composed and experienced players didn't show it.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. When you kick 10 goals, 16 as well, you're not going to win
Well,
many games of footy. And Dixon was fantastic, but kicking 3 goals, 6, you know, it's just, yeah, that's going to come back to bite them.
You know, though, there's moments over the course of the game where
Yeah,
you watch
I know,
it, and West
I know.
Coast would say, well, we shouldn't have done those things to
I
even
agree.
get in that spot. So sometimes we get caught up, and generally, as fans, we focus on the last minute or 2 minutes of the game, and that's what we remember. We don't remember all the things that happened over the course of the game. I think Ken Hinckley probably summed it up best when he said, we didn't kick straight.
That's
if we
right.
had a kick straight, then we win. So let's not complicate it.
Yeah.
And I thought he was magnificent in the way he handled himself in front of the media.
Yeah,
so hats
100%
off to
agree.
Ken Hinckley. Let's talk about tonight's game. Geelong in second spot doesn't mean anything now. Sydney in sixth. They're at the MCG. Geelong thumped by Richmond. Sydney thumped Essendon. So one team comes in feeling pretty fresh.
Yeah.
Other team not so much. Sydney defeated Geelong in round 20 by 46 points at Skilled Stadium. So we're only talking 4 weeks ago, so it's not like it's horrid. Jared McVeigh, of course, plays his 300th. They need to get up for him. You go, Geelong have lost 7 of their past 9 finals games, if you can believe that. So bit of heat on Geelong. Sydney have won 15 of their last 17 games. So if you're drawing a picture, you go, the stats and everything else says Sydney, Sydney, but we go, hang on a minute, it's a final. Anything can happen.
Anything can happen, that's right.
What will happen?
Geelong will no doubt looking to bounce back after their loss against the Tigers, but you just can't go past Sydney at the moment, Smithy. They're just looking so good. Franklin's unstoppable. You know, their midfield's back to their best. Like you mentioned, the only 2 games they lost in their past 17 have been those 2, you know, got games to the Hawks after less than a goal, you know, so it's pretty hard to back against the Swans, I think, at the moment.
They look strong in every single area. I don't think there's a crack in that armour whatsoever, other than the stats suggest, as we talked about last week when Richmond hadn't beaten Geelong for how long, that
stats don't matter.
These stats, you know, have a chance. It's an opportunity to change change those.
All right,
stats.
let me ask you, boys. Selwood didn't have one of his better games.
No.
Beware the wounded champion.
He'll be better.
He will be. No, he'll be much better than better, I think.
Yeah.
Do they get an opportunity then to play Dangerfield at forward?
You know what? In a lot of ways, they may have to. We saw that replay of Danger when he looked like he hyperextended his knee last week, and I don't know how he didn't. 2, I don't know how he stayed on. But 3, I think it impacted on him, and that's the most important thing. So depending on what his recovery like this week, hasn't got a real lot of attention, but I just didn't think he was at his best. I think there was probably some mental apprehension about him being 100% fit.
Yeah.
Look, in the midfield, they stack up okay against them. If you look at Hawkins is capable of kicking 5 or 8 goals if he turned it on.
Menzel has to come back in
as well. So I expect tonight's game to be a close game.
Yeah.
I really expect it to be a very close game, but because I don't like losing money, I would be backing Sydney, but probably between a goal and 3 maximum.
Bevo?
Yeah, sorry to sound boring, but I think I agree with Poppy there. It's going to be a really close one.
Sorry to sound boring, but I agree with Poppy.
Well, it's nearly the first time.
No, I do think Sydney in a real close one, and I could see Dangerfield playing up forward, kicking a few goals, and definitely making a difference. And Selwood will definitely bounce back as well, and I think Menzel will make a difference. Last week, Zach Guthrie wasn't any good. You know, he just looked a bit overawed by the whole situation. So I think Menzel has to play. And I think it would be a close one, but Sydney just.
Yeah, geez, there's some superstars in both teams. I just think Buddy's going to get a bag. I reckon he's going to get 7 or 8 and they just can't stop him. I mean, no one can if he's going. So I think that could be the difference. I think they kind of balance out around the rest of the ground. He just gives them the X factor. GWS in 4th spot, West Coast in 8th. It's at Spotless Stadium, so they might get 10 or 11,000 there. GWS were beaten badly by the Crows. Now, they've got some complications, of course. Mumford is out with the fractured foot. That's a big loss for them. I don't know that they can replace him.
Yeah.
You go, that is a massive worry. They've played twice this year. West Coast got them in round 22 by 21 points, funny enough, at Spotless. They got them in round 10 by 8 points at Domain. So most people say West Coast are good at home, haven't been so good on the road, other than Adelaide Oval, but they've been good at Spotless as well. Okay. So, you know, Petrie, Vardy were really good and going to be really important again. What's your feel on this one?
Yeah, it's another interesting game, Smithy. It could go either way. No Jeremy Cameron as well, which really hurts GWS.
Yeah.
And West Coast were obviously impressive in their win against Port, although Port, if they could have kicked straight, it might have been a different story. But yeah, I think GWS will bounce back this week. I think West Coast played their grand final last week, in my opinion.
You know, I look at the GWS side, and I've been a big fan of theirs since round 1. I started off with round 1. They won't get beaten this year. Crows beat them in round 1. So that didn't last too long. But I don't think they've had no momentum. They've had no momentum of success. They've played 1 or 2 good quarters and they've won 1 or 2 okay games, but then they've fallen away or someone's got injured. You know, they've got a truckload of talent, but that talent is now a few years into, you know, what their expectations are. Yeah. If they don't win this one, and I can't see how they couldn't, who knows? Who knows? I just worry about it. But as I was speaking
a stat that doesn't matter. Let me give you a
going?
stat that doesn't matter. The Eagles have to defy history to win this game. It's only happened once since they started the finals series since 2000. So we're playing the same finals format.
Yes.
North Melbourne in 2015 have been the only team to come from 8th spot to win 2 finals games in a row. So the numbers stack up. Again, it's just a stat.
Yes.
No different to Geelong and Richmond.
Yeah.
But I think West Coast is going to win.
Well, you know, interesting. I hope that it's going to be a close game again. It's going to be nothing in this particular game. But the thing I like about it is West Coast have gone to Adelaide, West Coast are going to Sydney, West Coast are heading off after that to Melbourne to play Richmond.
Yeah.
Whoever comes up, they're going to be almost on their hands and knees before they take on a pretty good Richmond side.
All right, Josh Kelly for
I'm going to go
GWS.
GWS for what it's worth.
Josh Kelly may be the difference in this one too. He had 43 disposals and 8 tackles and a goal, I think, last time they played.
Yeah,
so if they tag him, then someone else is going to pop up for GWS. Who would it be?
Yeah, good question. I think Toby Green was a bit quiet against the Crows,
Agree.
and I reckon he's due for a big one as well.
Yep.
And Patton wasn't really, his best either. So I think those two guys are the keys for GWS, and I can see both of them having big games. And Stevie J, I reckon he's due for a big one as well. I know he didn't play against the Crows, but I can feel as though he's got that superstar ability to just dominate a final.
Menzel comes in that Geelong side. Johnson, I know they're different games, but it's just interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
That we're getting down to probably the last game in both of their careers, and they're the
Stevie Johnson's
bit of
an
X factor.
X-factor when it comes into that.
Big
so-
call. Last game of Menzel's career. You can't see Port picking him up or someone else picking him up next year?
Sorry, at Geelong. I
was going to say.
I thought the decision last week, although strange, was a bit of an indicator of where they see him.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're talking about,
Yeah.
let's talk about some players then. Jake Lever, 21-year-old. He's been offered $850,000, if we believe the numbers to be right, for 3 years with Melbourne.
Yeah.
Now, I talked to some list management people. They're saying, and it's divided, some of the list management people believe that he's worth a first-round draft pick 2017 and another first-round draft pick 2018. A lot of list management saying, no, that's over the odds. He's worth a second-round draft pick and maybe the following year a second round. Now, Melbourne have got pick 10 this year and they've got a second-round pick next year, a first-round pick that they could offer. Will that be enough to ply him in?
I think it's too much money. I think he's not really a key defender, is he?
Yeah.
I mean, he can play a key defender role, but I think he's best taking the second or third best man. He's not a gun midfielder.
They're saying
he's
he's captain material. They're saying he's captain material.
Yeah,
so
okay.
he's highly rated.
Yeah, fair enough.
I rate
Melbourne have
Talia better, to be honest.
If Melbourne have got the first pick,
Yep.
2018, which they have,
Yes.
pick 10, 217, is that going to be enough to get Lever in
Yeah,
Melbourne?
I think so. I mean, I sort of tend to agree with Poppy. He's really good at spoiling, but he doesn't he's not a key backman. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think Talia's more important to the Crows than Lever, and they can afford to lose him because they've got guys like Josh Kelly coming through. They've got Hardigan. They've got now Keith, who showed some good signs this year. So I think the Crows have got enough good players, and now they're going to want. They've got some extra money in their salary cap now. If Lever goes, and McGovern's signed on as well. So I think he's gone.
I think the next 2 weeks of footy is going to influence a lot of people's decisions.
Yep.
If Adelaide go through and win a premiership, does that bond that group for a couple of years to come, or does it mean that some players go?
I've won a premiership. I can go somewhere.
I've won my AFL premiership. This is now, let's make hay while the sun shines. And I think it's an interesting scenario for them.
Yeah.
I mean, Dusty had the same scenario. What do I do now? He could have waited for a few more weeks. But
$2 million contract on the table. To turn that down to stay with Richmond, I think shows you where he is at
100%.
with the club.
100%.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic.
And that's why I think it's going to be an interesting proposition for this Adelaide Crows squad. The next two games will tell us something.
I can only tell you from my own experience.
Yes.
You win a grand final, you don't want to go anywhere.
Okay.
You lose, and then you're more susceptible to going.
There's probably the answer.
See, that's
that's
interesting. Other people have said the opposite, Smithy. They've said if you win a grand final, you're more likely to go because you've got that grand final behind
I
you.
think if you're at the end of your career, and you're looking to pick up some dollars at the end, but they don't have that group. So, again, I'm only talking from my own experience.
Interesting couple of weeks ahead, you're
I
right.
want to ask you quickly about Jackson Trengove, boys, before we go. Will he stay or not? Now, Matthew Nix made this comment earlier in the week. Although Jackson was not selected in what we think was our best 22 against West Coast, he is still a super important part of our group. Now, I read that as saying he's not in our best 22. I reckon that's how Jackson would read that.
Yeah.
Is he stay or go?
Yeah, I think he's gone to the Western Bulldogs, to be honest. Like, you just see the way the Port's going.
You'd like to throw that from nowhere?
Dougal Howard was so good against West Coast, playing one of his best games. You've got Homps and Jonas, who didn't play against West Coast, of course, who are stars. Then you've got other guys coming through as well, like Logan Austin.
Bulldogs forward? What's his name? His name just escaped me off the top of my
Jake
head.
Stringer, maybe?
Do we pick him up?
That'd be a good trade. I'd be happy with that.
All right, now you're going to
go
go
for
mail on
Stringer.
Jake Stringer. Where do you think Jake Stringer's going to end up?
I'd love for him to go to Port, but I think he's going to go to Essendon. Yeah, I've heard that that's strong Port.
Right.
Yeah.
We've spoken for 15 minutes about all sorts of things.
And I think Rockcliffe's going to go to Port. There you go.
Rockcliffe to Port. All right,
Yeah.
not that you're biased in any shape or form. Time for us to go. Hope you've enjoyed the show, everybody. Look forward to your company next week. Bye for now.